Part 2, Treasure Island Shoreline facing San Francisco from Yerba Buena Island, Sunday, May 4, 2025. We're on Yerba Buena Island in San Francisco Bay. We're walking up to Panorama Park.
This is really beautiful here, isn't it?
Isn't it? We can see Clipper Cove below us. Are you enjoying the view?
Yep.
How about the air and the sun?
Yep.
Yep. And that bunch of trees always gets in the way. I'm going to start talking here. Okay, this is the official start of the tour.
Okay.
Right here, right exactly here. Okay.
Is that the ferry? Is there a ferry?
Yes, that's the ferry dock down below. This has the side of the island that the Navy and TIDA think is safer than the other end. Remember on the map it said where the Navy put the trash? Okay? Look out to the farthest part of the island. You see it?
Yes.
That's where the Navy put the trash. They thought that was pretty far away. So they dragged all their trash and burned it out there. The side of the island facing Angel Island and Alcatraz, and the Golden Gate Bridge is that away. Okay? So what you basically have on the far end of the island is what?
Waste.
A burn pit.
A burn pit.
On the other end of the island is where the Navy built their townhouses, knowing they were building it on top of where they burned the trash, and a lot of what was in that trash was radioactive. They put that stuff out there and burned it, and then they didn't clean it up because they needed housing for sailors. So they built all these townhouses over the trash, and that's what they still haven't cleaned up. Okay, that's the Navy's Site 12. They divided the island into sites with site numbers like they did at Hunters Point, except they call them sites here, and that's different from Hunters Point. At Hunters Point, the Navy called these sections parcels. The Navy's townhouse and the community, which are the same, are Site 12. And officially, the Navy has not cleaned up Site 12. And people are still living over that toxic trash.
Do they get them to sign an agreement saying they'll hold everybody harmless if they live there?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, the people who moved in there signed agreements that they won't take the Navy to court. Remember this about Treasure Island. Every inch of what you're looking at, every grain of sand, every drop of water, every piece of air is completely toxic. That whole place is toxic. Everything is toxic. That's why I said on the phone today not to ever drink water or anything made with water on that island. Now they claim the water's clean, but it isn't. They say that the water comes from Hetch Hetchy, but the minute it hits the pipes in Treasure Island, the water pipes, a lot of those water pipes were built for the Golden Gate International Exposition, and they're breaking apart. I've seen them. When we drive down Avenue M today, you'll see that there is a depression in the middle of the road. That's because they're constantly digging in the asphalt to change pieces of the pipes and fix the pipes. So the water is completely toxic, and they lie about it. This is one of the things, this is why I get angry, because they lie about everything. And I don't like liars. I really don't. I like the truth. So it pisses me off that they lie, especially when people's lives are at stake. But the key thing that I wanted to tell you about Treasure Island is they keep bringing people to live there in that old subsidized housing, and never at any time do they ever tell anybody that it is toxic. They don't tell people who work there. I mean, as far as unions go, boy, do they have a big union complaint. Because none of the workers are told, none of the residents are told, and nobody is ever told. And this makes the city and county of San Francisco and TIDA and the Navy completely vulnerable to lawsuits. Now, get a lawyer who's going to take on the Navy. We've been trying for 11 years to do that. Everybody's afraid of taking on the Navy. They finally got some action at Camp Lejeune, and that's a success story. Okay, now there are 3 buildings.
I'm saying that too. I'm remembering.
On Treasure Island that were built for the Golden Gate International Exhibition.
What's that hill?
That hill is a pile of soil being trucked to the construction area to raise the island as a base for buildings.
Is that real?
Yes, it's a real hill of dirt. You have a good eye. I first want to tell you about the buildings. The only buildings they're going to keep from the Golden Gate International Exhibition is Building 1, which is over here behind the trees. It's on the bay. Building 2 is that one to the right of the tree. Okay, and then Building 3, these are all built for the Golden Gate International Exhibition. So Building 1 was meant to be an airport. They've actually shot footage for major movies. Building 2 was meant for the clipper ships, because during Golden Gate International Exhibition, China clippers were landing in the water. So that Building 2 is meant to be an airport. But the Navy, when the Navy came, they took Building 2 over and they made it a school for sailors, and they taught them how to use chemical weapons and radiation weapons in that school. So Building 2 is completely toxic. And there are some businesses in there that I worry about. In Building 3, the one toward the pier that you're looking at the end, they built night vision glasses in there, the Navy did. And in order to build night vision glasses, they used a radioisotope called strontium-90. I know you've heard of that. Yep. Okay. So those night vision glasses were used by the Navy guys when they left this island, And when they came back, they didn't need them anymore, so they dropped them all over the ground. And so that strontium-90 is all over in the soil. They were little pieces of metal. They were called metal foils. And the Navy has found in the soil most of the contaminants are these metal foils. And that's all documented on the Navy's website, all of those foils. So they were made right in that building. And back at that time, they worked with the radiation and they didn't know how to handle it. They washed it down a sink. And all of this radioactive water went down into the soil down Avenue M. The place I told you about that has a pipe that runs the length of the island all the way out to the bay. So Avenue M is completely radioactive because one thing about radioactivity is it is forever. You can never get rid of it. We're going to go around the border. We're going to drive around the island on the... See where all the trees are?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go around that shore all the way out to the end of the island where the housing is. We're not going to drive through all the works in the middle. We're going to go around it. There's something important I want to point out to you. Let's look at the left side of the island. See the high-rise?
Yeah.
That high-rise? That's called Isle House, I-S-L-E. That's one of the new condo buildings they've built there. Okay, see the stretch of ground in front of it?
Yeah.
When the Navy had it, that was called the Great Lawn. It was green. It wasn't brown. And on that patch of brown there, they had a German prisoner of war camp for about a year during the war. So I find that kind of interesting. And that left in a year. But then they built a barracks on that stretch of ground for sailors. And beyond it, see that white thing beyond that block of white?
Yeah.
You see that?
Is that the building that's got a white roof?
No, it's over to the shore more. Okay, look.
Looks like tents or something.
Yeah, it does.
Big tent.
I think it is. Actually, I think it is a big tent. Okay, beyond that, the Navy built, and in the green part, where the trees are, the Navy built a fake ship. It was called Pandemonium 1. And they had sailors learning how to handle radiation by working with radioisotopes on top of that ship, fake ship. It was a building, but it was in the shape of a ship. So then they had these barracks right where that brown section is, and they had all this radiation on their clothes and shoes, so they would walk back to the brown section, which was a great lawn with barracks on it. And so that whole patch of brown is completely radioactive, okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, just to the right of that, you see the high-rise, the white high-rise, and then the dark gray building behind it with the white roof?
Yeah.
Okay, that is two buildings. It's affordable housing for veterans called Museo May. It's Swords to Plowshares project. And just beyond that is affordable housing for the residents that used to live in the back of the island. And I've been in that. Right behind that and it's called Star View Court. And the reason it's called Star View Court, and we'll be driving past it today, is because the Navy then, after they had these little barracks in the front on the Great Lawn, they then demolished those and built a barracks right where that big brown patch is, called the Starburst Barracks. And I have pictures of them. They're like two asterisks. You look at them from above.
I remember those.
It's got a central, wings go out from a central axis, and there were two of them. Okay, well, when in about 1969, they took the remember Pandemonium was a fake ship where they were teaching sailors how to handle radiation. They washed it on the hull of the ship and down into the soil. So everything around is completely radioactive still today. So they took that Pandemonium, and don't you love the name Pandemonium? Yeah. And they moved it around to the side of the island just behind that high rise. And they renamed it Pandemonium 2. They weren't satisfied with just Pandemonium 1. They had to have a Pandemonium 2. And they did the same thing out there on the side that more faces Berkeley and Oakland. They had sailors out there, and they would pour the radiation on the hull of the ship and taught how to handle it. And then they would come back to the two Asterisk buildings, the Starburst barracks. So they had radiation on their clothes and shoes. And so that whole area, so where the big blocky gray thing is, that's radioactive. It's radioactive, and people are living in a building that's named...
New construction?
Yes. It's all new construction. It's part of the redevelopment. Yes. Yes. So, and behind that high-rise called Isle House, there's another kind of lower rise that's full of condos called Hawkins. They've just built that. You can't see that from here. So you get the general idea here.
Yes.
Okay? And remember, everything, I haven't told you this yet, everything from the Starburst barracks to the shore is a burn pit.
Oh.
So the end of the island is a burn pit. Everything from 9th Street is basically 9th Street behind the Starview Court. That's all a burn pit too. And if you look out to Building 3 on this side of the island by the pier, that's all a burn pit too. So that's kind of what I'm saying when I say that every inch of this fake island is filled with radioisotopes and chemical grade weapons, that's heavy in the mix, and heavy metals like lead and what is that other famous heavy metal? Mercury and arsenic. It's all down in that soil. They're going to build a whole bunch more buildings in the front, and that's all meant to be a cap.
Meant to be a what?
Cap.
Cap.
That's how you try to contain toxins, by building a cap over them. But caps break. They break down over time. Even cement caps break down over time. You know, they're vulnerable to water, etc.
I have a couple of questions. One, when you look at an area like this, how do you know something's a burn pit? Is there a characteristic look? And the other question is, what are they burning in the burn pits?
Okay, those are good questions. And no, the burn pits are buried underground. Mm-hmm. And this business in the front here with this high rises, they're trying to cover up the burn pit. The burn pits are underground. Mm-hmm. You can't see them.
They built on top of them.
Yeah. But you wouldn't be able to see them unless they were actually burning stuff.
Uh-huh.
You know, but what's that other question? What's that other question?
What are they burning in the burn pits?
Radiation, chemicals, heavy metals, pieces of tire, pieces of wood, everything that you'd burn in a dump, everything. And they had radiation on that island, so a lot of the stuff they burned in there was radioactive, and that has been documented by the Navy.
Why were they employing burn pits? Was that their method of just taking out the garbage and getting rid of it?
That's right.
That's the military burn pits.
Like a convenient way that is totally no respect for the earth and the consequences.
Oh, that was back in the 50s, in the 40s.
Before the environmental movement.
You know, there was just like, burn it, take it out to the end of the island where nobody is, and burn it out there.
That was completely okay. They had no idea, or even they might have had some intuition that maybe it wouldn't be.
Remember Better Living Through Chemistry?
Yeah.
You know.
They weren't even sure what the effect of radioactivity was.
No.
It was too close to the beginning of that era.
Well, some of the people did know what radiation would do to you. And in the Navy, those are the people, the people at the top. The grunts didn't know it.
Yeah.
And the people in the middle didn't know it, and they mishandled radioactivity as a result. But all the people, the brass, knew what it would do.
Are any of the soldiers being treated for contamination? For example, at the VA here in San Francisco?
I'm helping a guy right now, lives in Florida, who worked out here and found out that the reason he has cancer is because he worked out here, from my article. I'm helping him write something called a buddy letter so that he can get help from the VA. The VA is absolutely recalcitrant on these things. They make you do flip-flops to get help from the VA because doctors, now get this folks, I said this at Darling, at the Darling protest, because I heard it from Dahlberg. Remember Dahlberg? You know Dahlberg? The doctor who's working with Himsa Sumchai?
Uh-huh.
He told me that the Navy talked medical schools out of teaching doctors how to handle radiation. So you go to a doctor. Do you remember when Mishwa was talking about coming out to Treasure Island and she got sick?
Oh.
And she went to a doctor and they made her think it was all in her head. And then later on, if you look at that video, she's very eloquent about this because they had a party out at Treasure Island. She was dancing around, her feet in the dirt, and if you walk in the dirt, you get contaminated. And she got sick. And they took her to a hospital in San Francisco and they didn't know what was wrong with her. They made her think it was something in her body. And it wasn't. She had been exposed to radiation. And so she was having the classic symptoms of radiation exposure. And she only found out what happened to her years later when she talked to somebody else, a friend of hers that it happened to also. So, I mean, the Navy has hidden this stuff from people. They've talked to doctors, they've tried to discourage medical schools from teaching about radiation exposure. These are crimes against humanity. And I give myself credit for getting pissed off about it.
Yes, and all the work you've had done to uncover this information, Carol.
Well, it was interesting. It was interesting. And it was like I dug a little, then I dug a little more, then I dug a little more, I dug a little more, and I couldn't believe what I was finding out. It was like that.
Well, now, burn pit injury now from Afghanistan and maybe Iraq. That's really in the public eye now. So many soldiers.
Yes, burn pits are becoming a
pits,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah, but look at how long it took
Yeah.
to have happen. And people are getting help because of burn pit injuries because it's just been exposed to the public.
I remember when there was a pretty popular culinary school out here. We'd come out here and eat. Yeah. Do you remember that, Art?
Yeah.
It was part of this. It was part of Job Corps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And Job Corps is see that built the big high rise there, white one, and the dark one behind it.
Mm-hmm.
That Job Corps is right behind that. I'll point it out to you when we drive there.
We're not planning on going up this ramp any further, are we?
No, but I think you should go take a look.
take a
and
look.
I'll walk down with Carol.
Okay. I want to go up there though because of the view. So I'm gonna try it. Stubborn as I am, I've been up there.
Okay, you said you wanted to sit down, so I'm
Yeah.
getting mixed messages.
Yeah. Can you take the camera?
Yes.
Can you shoot with it, even though you can't see? Just point it at something, because I'm gonna try to walk up there. Yeah, you can run ahead of me if you want to. It's gonna take me some time to get there. I think the spire's up there. I think I want to show you the spire.
It's right here.
Yeah, shoot the spire. If you can see in the viewfinder, shoot that.
There's a spire on Treasure Island.
They have construction.
Not
for a
Treasure
while.
Island, Yerba
So this
Buena
is
Island.
new. Yeah.
I've never been here, but I've been living in San Francisco since 1978, and I've never seen this.
Yeah. This is new. This is a couple of, I want to say a year old because.
What a view from Yerba Buena Island, looking west. little fog in the air. It's the Golden Gate Bridge. Get a little different view from here. Angel Island. There's Alcatraz. Treasure Island. And the spire. There's these perforated metal signs with some information on it. Bay Bridge.